I'm going to start this episode by getting very much straight to the point. Remember when they replaced Aunt Viv with Aunt Viv in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Remember that. And what do you notice about the replacee and the replaced? Go on, I'll give you a couple of seconds to think that one through. Now, it could have been a contractual thing. It could have been the fact that OG Aunt Viv decided that she wanted to step down from the show. It could have been that the show producers wanted to take the show in a different direction. All those things could be likely scenarios. But you are seriously telling me that they willingly chose to replace a dark-skinned woman with a lighter-skinned woman as the same character, and they thought that we as the audience, we wouldn't notice. They are so lucky. They are so lucky that they didn't have social media back in the day, because they would have been dragged mercilessly, and rightfully so. So I was 5 years old when I noticed that, and I sat and I was like, something doesn't quite feel right. And I couldn't articulate it at the time because obviously I was a 5-year-old. But little did I know that Aunt Viv and everything that she represents would shape not only my personal politics, but my overall outlook on life for years to come. So I know what you're thinking. What the hell has any of this got to do with Love Island? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to a word called colorism. Fun. Replacing a dark-skinned woman with a lighter-skinned woman, to some, may not be that crazy. It might not be that mad, but unfortunately I am that friend that's a little too woke. And for me, optics-wise, it is an insane decision to make. I'm always talking on my channel, on my platforms, about how we all need to critically analyze the media we consume far better. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm happy to admit if I'm wrong. I don't think something like that has ever happened before. And it most certainly hasn't happened to any other race and any other gender ever. And I truly believe that decision was rooted in colorism. So to bring it to Love Island, a couple of weeks ago, I did a video about Love Island. And if you haven't watched it, I would actually suggest that you pause this current video, go back on my channel, watch the other one, then come back here. And in that specific video, I broke down the reasons as to why I think that the UK version of Love Island has fallen massively from its previous popular heights. And in that video, I listed many different reasons, but one particular point that I mentioned was how the show treats and portrays the dark-skinned women that go on the show. And honestly, it's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good. Whether it's Samira, Leanne, Kaz, Whitney, Billikis, Alima, Tanya, or Yewande, the dark-skinned women on this show have had a terrible time. History repeats itself year after year after year. If British television was a family dinner table, black women, especially the dark-skinned ones, have spent decades either being uninvited or being handed the scraps after everyone else has eaten. Colorism, the cousin of racism, has long dictated who gets the spotlight, who gets the sidekick role, and who gets politely edited out of the frame altogether. Now, I've mentioned colorism a couple of times, but let's actually define it. What actually is colorism? The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines colorism as prejudice or discrimination, especially within a racial or ethnic group, favoring people with lighter skin over those with darker skin. And I don't really need to go into much further detail. It's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? You see, when you go on a show like Love Island, you are exposed to an entire nation of people. You have your Facebook mums, you have Black Twitter, you have PLT, Fiat 500 Twitter, you have the Essex semi-pro footballers, and now you also have the Americans watching too. And it is a nation that is full of people that will criticize and analyze every intricate detail about your personality, your life, and most importantly, your appearance. One thing that I've noticed, and a lot of black people have noticed, is that there are very small subtleties to the analysis of dark-skinned black women that go on Love Island. And if you're not paying very close attention, you might just miss it. I am a lover of the media, and I have worked in the media industry for over 15 years now, and I've also been very blessed to sit in some very important and influential rooms. And I also, once upon a time, very nearly ended up on Love Island. I might talk about it in this video, who knows? I'm undecided. I very nearly ended up on Love Island once upon a time. Research shows that TV shows that we watch and the media that we consume shape our thinking and our political and personal preferences. People use TV as a way to learn about the world. And if we are constantly fed ideas that are negative about black women in the media and those perceptions remain unchallenged, those stereotypes become normalized and then regurgitated by non-black people and passed off as truth. So, not only are we going to delve into this a little bit further in this episode, but before we even get into the conversation around Love Island and television, I want to start off, and we need to start off this episode by talking about how society has always treated black women lesser than. Hi, my name is Ore. I am a presenter, broadcaster, cultural commentator, and all-round creative idiot. Welcome back to Small Talk. This is where I sit in my bed and I dissect the world of news, sport, entertainment, popular culture, politics, and everything in between, but aim to dig that a little bit deeper than beneath the surface. Throughout history, there has been a persistent and deliberate cultural conditioning that has taught us as a society to undervalue and mistreat black women. This has been a slow, insidious social programming that dates back centuries. And I hate to say it, and let's just put non-black people to the side momentarily. We as black people, black men contribute heavily to this. In order to look forward, we obviously have to look back into the past, and unfortunately, we are going to have to talk about slavery. Because during slavery, black women were not seen as people. They were seen as property. Their womanhood was stripped and their pain was constantly dismissed. And I mean, it doesn't sound particularly different from the present day. You know, some people might even argue that nothing's really changed. It's just that they're now in mental chains and no longer in physical chains. Historically, black women have always been categorized in 3 different roles. Number 1, the Jezebel, someone that is hypersexualized and overly promiscuous. Number 2, I probably shouldn't do that. Number 2, the mammies, nurturing, loyal, and an asexual woman. A woman who is often more devoted to the white children that she looks after, almost at the expense of her own well-being and her own health. Then, number 3, we have the Sapphire, which is the quintessential angry black women trope that we are always fed. So a black woman that is loud, malicious, stubborn, rude, and overbearing. That is the role that is often assigned to black women. And there is no in-between, no nuance, no complexity, just stereotypes that have been perpetuated and constantly recooked over decades and over centuries. Then, if we were to fast forward into the present day, we can see how those historical portrayals have now manifested itself into the TV that we watch today. And before I continue, Tyler Perry, you will pay for your crimes. Tyler Perry, you will pay for your crimes, because I don't know why I did it. I watched that Tyler Perry Netflix film with Taraji P. Henson the other day, and genuinely, I wanted to gouge my eyes out. I wanted to smash this microphone over my head repeatedly, over and over again. I think it might be up there with one of the worst things I've ever watched. It might be one of the worst things I've ever watched. Calling it bad is actually a compliment. Calling it bad is an understatement. And when I watched it, it reminded me of the fact that black women are rarely the protagonists in films or TV shows. And when they are, more often than not, their roles center pain, resilience, or rage. Case in point, the film Straw by Tyler Perry. And if you want to look further at other films and TV shows, we can look at Annalise Keating in How to Get Away with Murder. We can look at Chris's mum in Everybody Hates Chris, there is a long list of TV shows that will forever uphold this portrayal of black women. And God forbid a black woman dares to express emotion, she is then seen as somebody that is aggressive, somebody that is intimidating. Now, I know a lot of you are watching this video and have clicked on this video because you want me to get into the nitty-gritty of Love Island, and we will do that. But before we get there, we are going to actively engage our frontal cortex because we're intellects over here. On this channel, on this page, in this space, we take pride in seeking information and knowledge. And all of the key details I've just listed about how black women have historically been portrayed on television add up to how we end up with Samira crying on season 4 of Love Island. And that actually leads me perfectly into my next point. And that point is desirability. Mainstream beauty standards have always celebrated fair skin, straight hair, and thin noses. You know, those typical Eurocentric features. Features that are impossible for black women to achieve because they're not European. Unless they go under the knife, unless they get cosmetic enhancements. But just talking naturally, as in when they are born and they are developed over the years, they can't get those features because they're not European. Now, there are different ways that we can take this conversation, especially when we introduce how light-skinned women are treated, because light-skinned women are occasionally let into the room of desirability. But I also think about someone like Halle Berry, who has been able to forge a career in Hollywood, who has been super, super successful. But even then, I often find that when people talk about Halle Berry, she is spoken about regularly in the most over-sexualized, hyper-sexualized terms. Meanwhile, darker-skinned women were often erased from television altogether. Studies have been conducted in the past that show that black women are routinely rated lowest in terms of desirability. I can't sit up in here and attempt to speak on behalf of black women, but honestly, it must chip away at how you view yourself. And it's also one of the reasons why bleaching is so rife in African and Caribbean communities. This desirability issue creates a constant tension where black women know their own worth, but society will constantly gaslight them into believing that they're lucky to be chosen. They're lucky if somebody decides to tolerate them. Let me make this abundantly clear before I continue. Black women aren't the issue. Society is. The male gaze is the issue. The system is the issue because it has created this culture where it has told everyone, including black men, that love is white, love is soft, and love is submissive. Before I continue with this episode, I just want to say a massive thank you for the kind words and the messages that I received on the last episode. As you can see, I've got my laptop in front of me. I spend a lot of time researching and writing and making sure everything that I say is thoroughly researched and put together properly. And I can't thank you enough if you have liked, commented, subscribed, and just been involved in this little community that I'm building over here. If you haven't subscribed, I would absolutely love for you to do so. We do this every week, every other week, as many times as possible. And I would love for you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I enjoy putting these videos together and I would love for you to be a part of this community. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all of the stuff that the YouTubers say. And back to the episode. I love television. Well, I used to love television because new age media has completely killed traditional TV, but that is not for this particular video. One of the reasons why I was so drawn to forging a career in media and entertainment is because of the escapism that it offers. Have you ever watched your favorite TV show for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours and completely escaped from your everyday reality? That is what a good TV show, a good song, a good piece of content can do for you. Then we throw reality TV into the mix and you can see why people's eyes are fixated on their TV screens and why their bums are glued to the seats. Reality TV took us into a completely different realm. We were able to watch everyday people do everyday things and be entertained by it. And it kinda sorta broke the fourth wall a little bit. Once again, for those that watch Big Brother, what was Makosi doing in the swimming pool? What was she doing in the swimming pool? And why was I watching that at 9 years old? Now, I'm not here to give you an extensive background into reality TV. What I am here to do is fully dive into Love Island's awkward and terrible relationship with dark-skinned black women. Love Island is a show where people go on an island to find love. The clue's in the name. But as we are here in the United Kingdom, this is a nation that is overwhelmingly white. Overwhelmingly white. Don't listen to those right-wing grifters that tell you that immigration is a problem and that white people are being replaced. Don't listen to any of that. This country's white, okay? And it's always going to be white, and that's fine. So naturally, that majority will be reflected in how a show like Love Island casts their contestants. Got no problem with that. No problem with that whatsoever. The problem that I do have is that when they do cast black women on the show, it almost feels like they've just dashed it in there in order to meet the diversity quota. You know, go on, have your blacks. Oh, you want some black people? There, have it. A black woman from Ireland. What's their obsession with black women from Ireland? I'm not mad at it, but just every year there's a black woman or black person from Ireland. Former Love Islander Rachel Finney has also echoed these sentiments. She said that she feels as if she was put on the show due to the backlash ITV was receiving over its lack of diversity. They put me in at a time and gave me that entrance because they thought, okay, this is going to shut people up. She said all of this on a podcast that she felt undesired by her fellow white contestants who expressed that they weren't attracted to black women and felt like the producers were only ticking boxes for diversity rather than valuing them as individuals. So earlier in this episode, I discussed how black women have historically been portrayed in the media and have regularly been framed as undesirable. And we can see how that conditioning manifests itself in a show like Love Island, which is, if we're being brutally honest here, created and centered around the white male gaze. So let's take Samira Mighty from season 4 of Love Island, the first ever dark-skinned woman to be cast on the show. In the very first episode, she was asked if she can twerk. In the very first episode, the first ever dark-skinned woman to appear on Love Island in the United Kingdom was asked if she could twerk. It's so crazy, it's funny, but it's not. Like, the undertones are undertoning. Pardon? In every single coupling and recoupling, she was picked last. Time and time and time again. And cool, listen, somebody's got to be picked last. It's the game. It happens. I totally understand that. But when it's Samira one season, then it's Yewande the next, then it's Kaz the season after, and then it's Alima, and every single time they are picked, they're picked to be in friendship couples. You can't help but notice a certain pattern. Samira was turned down so many times on her season, you could see that it was visibly taking a toll on her. During a heartfelt conversation with fellow Islanders Megan and Danny, Samira broke down in tears because the guy that she was interested in, Frankie, who was a white guy, had eyes for Megan. Samira said to Megan,
"Thing is, it's fine because I fucking knew it. Like, I'm not a joke. Like, you're beautiful. Like, it's not. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm just me and you're you.
You are."
And for me, the nuance in that statement is very clear to see. The conversation then continues, and Megan then proceeds to then call Samira strong.
If you had to pick out of me and you, who would be the easiest option? Me, because I'll sit down and listen to whatever they say. They know that you're like strong and you've
No, but
so
you, Meg, I don't think you understand how freaking beautiful you are.
The good old strong black woman stereotype. Now, I'm not even going to blame Megan. I'm not. I'm ever so slightly going to give her the benefit of the doubt because I doubt she even understands or knows why a comment like, "you're so strong," is hurtful. Black women unfortunately have to go through this cycle where they are constantly being invited into spaces that they're not fully welcomed in, whether that be in employment or intimate spaces or on a popular dating show like Love Island. And as I always say, reality TV and Love Island in particular holds up a mirror to society. I'm going to stray off on a little tangent here, but I also believe that a lot of people don't actually engage with black people on a conversational level outside of work. Because when I have conversations with non-black people, a lot of the time, I feel like they're having a conversation as to what they think a black person might like. I might be reaching for the stars here. A lot of people don't know how to have genuine conversations with black women without fetishizing them or making comments about their hair or telling them that they're strong. It must be exhausting. Then we get into the promotional pictures that Love Island use for black contestants, and oh brother, it stinks. Oh brother, it stinks. Every single year they get this picture wrong. Every single year. I'm not a photographer. I know the last thing about photography, but surely they could find a photographer out there that knows how to light black skin, that knows how to frame black contestants. Not just black contestants, contestants of all colours. Good photographers should be able to take pictures of black, white, whoever. Earn your money, earn your wage. But also producers, find the right photographer. It's not that hard. Every time I see one of these pictures, I get so annoyed. And I get annoyed because basically it is the very first image that they put out of the black women that will be appearing on that season. And if the first image is so underwhelming, they're already going into the show under a cloak of undesirability. As I already said, a lot of the time the pictures are poorly lit, the background isn't particularly complimentary for black skin, and the hair and makeup feels like it's been done by somebody that doesn't really know the intricacies of black hair and beauty. I often think about Leanne from the very first ever Winter Love Island and how she was constantly being dragged online for the quality of her hair and her makeup in that season. And I'm pretty sure, and I don't know for certain, she had limited grooming products on hand to do an effective job, whilst also having to be the sole representation of a black woman on that show. I don't think that's fair. For a young woman, by the way, she was 22, 23 at the time. I don't think it's fair for a single black woman to bear that responsibility. Alima, in the current season of Love Island, she might as well be an extension of the daybed, because there have been moments in this particular season where I completely forgot that she was in the villa. Practically, she's been non-existent. Not her fault. She barely had a storyline when she was in the villa, and it very much felt like she was just the token black. It is a pattern of erasure and constantly feeling like you are an afterthought. In fact, there was this really beautiful moment a couple of episodes ago where Bilikis entered the villa and her and Alima shared a warm embrace. And for me, that was more than just a hug. It was more than a hug. It was very much an embrace that said, finally, I've got a sister in here. Finally, I have somebody in here that will understand my experiences without it having to be spelled out for me. And then what happened the day after Bilikis came in? Alima got dumped. Not even up to 24 hours later, Alima got dumped. One black in, one black out. Like, yes, I know Love Island is of course a TV show and it is going to be edited and produced in order to tell a story. But I often find that the black women that go on that show are not allowed to be complex individuals. They never get those soft-focused romance montages or those slow-mo beach kisses. They never get those long camera shots showing emotional vulnerability. They never get any of that. So I've spoken a little bit about Samira in season 4. I've spoken about Alima and Bilikis in this current season of Love Island. I'm also going to get back to Bilikis a little later in this episode. But now I really want to talk about Yewande Biala from season 5 of Love Island and her experiences on the show. Now, before I continue, I want to say this. I've made this abundantly clear a million times. Yewande Biala is, in my opinion, the most beautiful woman to ever step foot on any Love Island season ever. I'm talking UK, US, Australia, Cyprus, wherever. Season 1 to 6. Yewande is, in my opinion, the most breathtakingly beautiful islander ever. No one's ever going to top her. And it's all well and good that I think that, but when she was on the show, like Samira the year before, and all the other black women that have come on the show after her, she was effectively ignored and not given any attention, both by the male islanders in the villa, but also by the producers. She was often overlooked and found it difficult to form meaningful connections because most of the men's types in the villa and on the show invariably were Eurocentric ideals of blonde hair and blue eyes.
It's an issue with like nearly all reality TV stars. There's always someone that is kind of not picked. There's always a diversity type of issue. So going in, obviously I was aware of that. I found it hard because I think it was a day we actually did, if there was a challenge we did, it was like a kissing challenge. It was the first one where like you had to guess who the note was about and then kiss the person who you thought it was. And that was when I knew like this was going to be hard, because it's kind of like I didn't click with anyone romantically and I didn't feel like anybody wanted to kiss me.
Now I can delve in a little bit deeper into Yewande's troubled time on the show by talking about the love triangle that she was in with Danny and Arabella, and how Arabella essentially didn't really see Yewande as competition. I don't like that term. How Arabella didn't really see Yewande as someone Danny could genuinely be romantically interested in. Once again, I am that friend that is a little bit too woke, but the way that Arabella spoke about and spoke to Yewande, there was an air of superiority to it. There was an air of I'm better than to it. But I don't want to talk about that specific microaggression as much as it's important. I want to talk about Yewande, and notice how I said her name properly. I want to talk about Yewande and her name. Yewande is a beautiful, beautiful Yoruba name. A name that carries weight, a name that has meaning, and a name that should not be mocked or seen as less. This one's for all my African kids who are born or grew up in the UK with long African names. I know a lot of you will have a similar experience to me, where you are so used to people constantly butchering and mocking your African name. And if I had £1, honestly, if I had £1 for every time somebody mocked my name, Ore, O-R-E, as Oreo, or whatever variation of my name they came up with, I'd probably have enough money to buy a house in this stupidly priced country called England. But hey, we move. Season 5 of UK Love Island is a historic one. And given the subject at hand of this particular episode, it was also the very first season that a mixed race person won the show, Amber Rose Gill. It was the season that gave us Message. It was the season that gave us Ovi, Amber, Maura, Anna, Tommy Fury, and some girl called Molly May. I don't know if you've heard about her, but yeah, some Molly May girl. Apparently she's like really popular and really famous and whatnot, but hey, whatever. There was also this girl called Lucy Donlan, and Lucy was very much famous for making surfing her entire personality, doing some weird movement with her tongue, and she was also famous for crying when Tommy Fury rejected her. Now, Lucy was in season 5 of Love Island, and she spent 4 weeks in the island with Yewande, and for whatever reason, she just couldn't seem to get Yewande's name right. Yewande, or if you're going to say it the British way, Yewande. Yewande, just sound it out phonetically. It's really not that hard, especially when Yewande corrected her multiple times, with Lucy then actually turning around one time and saying, yeah, but you know what I mean. See, therein lies the problem. This is another example of how black women are constantly othered. Listen to me very carefully, because I don't want my words to be misconstrued. I'm not saying Lucy is racist. I'm not even saying Love Island is racist. What I am saying is that this and instances like these show the societal conditioning for how we view certain people from certain demographics. And Yewande has dealt with this her entire life, and she even wrote an article about this. And I actually want to read out some of the words from this article. The issue isn't unintentional mistakes, but rather how people recover from them. So when somebody doesn't take the time to learn the proper way to pronounce another person's name, or worse, intentionally mocks it for being too difficult to pronounce, or tries to ascribe another name to make themselves feel comfortable, it can come across as malicious. It also evokes a history of dominant groups forcing new names on people of oppressed groups. If you've known somebody for a very long time and are still pronouncing their name incorrectly, guess who has the power in that relationship? Well said. Now, there are so many other angles that I can take with this particular episode, and you might have noticed that I haven't mentioned a certain group of people yet. I haven't mentioned them yet. But for this next part of the episode, I briefly want to talk about men, specifically black men, and the role that black men play in all of this. By the way, they've been calling me a pick-me on TikTok for the last year. Every other post that I post, oh, you're such a pick-me. And that's fine, because I've already been picked. I've already been chosen by a beautiful black woman that I love dearly. So I'm a pick-me. That's fine. That's okay. And I want to say it again. I love black women. I love dark-skinned black women. That level of beauty for me is unmatched. Feel free to have your preferences. That is okay. In this life, love who you love. But for me, and for a lot of other black women, we've noticed that there is a pattern of young black men dating out of their race, which is absolutely fine. That is their prerogative. But when they do date out of their race, a lot of the time, their internalized racism towards black women jumps out like Elon Musk trying to do that X thing. Oh, she's too loud. Oh, you can't control a black woman. UK beast. UK beast. That is the most disgusting, abhorrent one. I absolutely hate that one. And these are examples of things that I've heard other black men say about black women, and it fills me with such rage and anger and overall disappointment. Once again, I go back to the social conditioning, because if you have been fed certain ideas about black women from a young age, and as you've gotten older, those ideas have remained ingrained in you, it will impact how you interact and how you see black women. I simply don't understand the deep-rooted hate that some black men have towards black women, especially when they have dark-skinned black mothers, dark-skinned black sisters. You hate yourself. You hate yourself. As I said, I'm watching the current season of Love Island UK, and I don't know what season we're on. It's been going on for 10 years now. So the year 2025, the UK version of Love Island. And if I hear the words "my Meg" again, I swear I'm going to projectile vomit all over myself and rub and lotion it into my skin like it's baby oil. It makes me sick. So we've got Dejon over here, who went on a date with bombshell Bilikis, and they had some real nice, wholesome black interaction with one another.
You are my type, which is why I picked you.
Yeah.
And are you open to get to know me?
Of course I'm open
Do you
to
want to
get
to know me?
Of course. I think you're a beautiful girl. I'm happy with what I see.
Okay.
Are you happy?
I am.
Out of 10.
I've been trying to rack my brain and understand how that conversation went to this conversation.
You're not someone that I would want to get to know in here or on the outside from the conversations that we've had.
That's fine.
So I just want you to know that.
Do you know what?
Can I finish?
Yeah.
I shouldn't be begging to speak.
No,
I shouldn't
but
be,
what you're saying now has nothing to do with what we were just...
Soon.
What we...
All right, Bilikis, I'm not going to keep begging to speak.
Once again, for these slow people at the back, it is not by force for Dejon to like Bilikis. Personally, I think she's the most beautiful woman in the villa. She is by far the most gorgeous woman in the villa. But that's my opinion. It's got nothing to do with me. It's not by force for him to like her. It's just the fact that the way he spoke to her is insane. It is insane. A man said, "You're not somebody I would want to get to know in here or on the outside." My guy, literally 24 hours ago, you were shining all 58, 75 of your teeth, telling this babe that, yeah, you're open, or you're someone that I'd be interested in getting to know. And 24 hours later, you've just all of a sudden downloaded amnesia. You can't tell me that that statement that he made is not malicious. And by the way, if you've watched this particular episode so far, you know that I don't beat around the bush. I very much get to the point. He would never speak to a white woman on the show like that. He would never speak to a white woman like that, period. That type of energy and ferocity is only ever reserved for, and I don't even need to finish the sentence because we all know how the story goes. I'm not going to beg you to let me speak. Meanwhile, Bilikis didn't even raise her voice. She didn't even speak out of turn. And this is how black women are constantly gaslit and silenced. Because in that very moment, Billie Kiss was robbed of expressing herself in the same way her white counterparts are celebrated for doing so. And then when a black woman does enter a particular space and decides, hey, you know what? I'm going to keep myself to myself. She's then met with, but she doesn't mingle with everyone. But we can't really connect with her. Meanwhile, the space that's been created has not been created for the black woman to feel comfortable, for the black woman to be seen, for the black woman to be heard. And finally, before I wrap up this particular episode, I briefly do want to touch on the fact that we have had a black couple win Love Island, even though they just about lasted longer than Liz Truss's term as Prime Minister. And we've also had a South Asian woman win the show. And that's a whole nother episode in itself, because the South Asian representation on this show is even worse. And then we had the season where I'll give credit where credit is due to Love Island. They struck gold with the season of Ella, Tyreek, Lockham, Whitney, Catherine. I think that's all of the people that were of colour that are relevant. They struck gold with that particular season. And that season was great because for once we had a diverse cast, and it meant that we had different perspectives, different storylines, and moments of cultural understanding. And in my opinion, for a very brief moment, that Love Island season represented the best of Britain. We had all of these different faces, all of these different accents, these different colours, living together in dysfunctional harmony. And for me, that was the blueprint. That should have been the blueprint. That should have been what they built the seasons to come on, because that season was so good. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the microaggressions weren't there in that particular season, but they just weren't as blatant. The United Kingdom is a melting pot. It is a vibrant tapestry of cultures and faces and background, and it's what makes Britain great. So why does Love Island insist on serving the same old tired narratives year after year after year, where black women are forced to look into the mirror and ask themselves, why am I not good enough? And I know somebody's going to be in the comments, somebody's going to watch this video and be like, I'm not going to lie, my bro, this isn't that deep. But I'll be so real with you, it is that deep. It really is that deep. I have 4 black sisters. I have a black mum. And I want to marry a black woman. And God willing, and I pray he blesses me with beautiful black children. And I want all of them to experience the joy that they deserve. Life is hard. And to add all of this colorism and trauma on top, I just want them to enjoy life. And look, black men, we have our own issues that we face when it comes to racial profiling and racism. But I don't think we truly understand what black women experience on a day-to-day, because being told you're not good enough on a regular basis can do irreparable damage to your mental health. Young black girls are always seen as adults. Black women disproportionately die in childbirth because their pain is not seen or believed. Black women are constantly compared to men and are questioned about their gender. This is why representation matters. This is why accurate representation matters. Because what we watch on our TVs and what we see on our smartphones trickles down into the public consciousness, and that's how we begin to break down stereotypes attached to marginalized communities. Black women are lit. A lot of popular culture comes from black women. They're not the trendsetters. They are the trend. And we need to uplift black women and not drag them down. All right, we've come to the end of this episode, and I want to say a massive thank you for watching and listening if you've made it this far. I know I say this for every single episode, but this has been my favorite one so far. There's so much more I could have said, but yeah, it's definitely been my favorite one so far. You can also watch and listen to episodes of Small Talk on Spotify. The link is in the description. Please like, please subscribe, please leave a comment. Please let me know what other video topics you'd like me to cover. I'm open to ideas, so leave those ideas in the comment section. All suggestions are welcome. Thanks once again, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.